Force Station at Malcolm Air Force Base, Montana. I was trained and assigned duties as a missile launch officer for the Minuteman I intercontinental ballistic missile. I was designated Deputy Missile Combat Crew Commander and part of a two-man crew. My commander at that time was Lieutenant Frederick Mywell. He's now deceased. We were on duty inside the Oscar Launch Control Center, a concrete capsule located about 60 feet underground. We had operational control over 10 Minuteman nuclear missiles. Each missile operates independently and has its own source of primary and backup power systems. It is important for you to note that the command and control for these missiles was entirely located within the capsule. There was absolutely no means to affect any of the missile systems from outside the capsule. On the evening of March 24, 1967, while my commander was on a scheduled rest break, I received the first of two phone calls from my topside flight security controller, FSC. The first call was to report unidentified lighted objects flying above the facility. Minutes later, the FSC phoned again and reported in a very agitated state that there was a large oval-shaped object hovering above the front gate. It was a red, pulsating, lighted object, approximately 30-40 feet in diameter. The best he could describe it, it was difficult to distinguish a structural part of it on the inside, except that it was glowing red, pulsating object. He had all the men out there with their weapons drawn. He wanted me to tell him what to do next. I, of course, told him something like, make sure nothing comes inside the perimeter fence. As I started to inform my commander, our missiles began to shut down. We lost alert status on all 10 missiles while this object was above our facility. When we queried the fault system, all missiles reported guidance and control system failure. At that time, the FSC reported to me that the object had flown off at high speed. When the security alert team arrived at the affected LS, and I'll read LS meaning launch facilities, they reported seeing the object hovering over those sites. As they approached closer to the object, they lost all communications with the FSC. After speaking to the wing command post, Lieutenant Mywell informed me that the same thing happened at another flight. At that time, I assumed that meant that night, but it turns out what he meant was it happened at another flight about a week earlier. They reported that the objects were above them, and at that point, the missiles started shutting down, disabled. Recently, let's say 2010, there was a shutdown of 50 missiles at Warren Air Force Base. This was announced by the Air Force. It was announced that eventually announced there was a computer glitch. I'm very worried about that. I'm not sure I believe that, but we do have witnesses that have come forward, both civilian and Air Force, that said they saw an object in the sky at the time of the shutdowns. This is still being investigated, but these incidents are still going on. These objects know in great detail how our missiles operate.
They know ours, but we don't know theirs.
That's right, and they can shut down our missiles at any time. They have proven that. They know in great detail how they operate, and so if you release that information to the public, what do you say to that about what kind of defense do we have against these things?
The greatest thing that's happened is more people have come forward. You heard Bruce Festermacher and Mr. Chanel say that as a result of my appearing on public broadcasting programs, they decided to go ahead and come out. So, again, if there are others out there that want to come forward and feel they can, deal with this, because there is still a ridicule factor involved, it's going to help this, disclosure eventually.
And you had 30 years
just to reflect on the incidents of what occurred that day. And do you believe that it's an extraterrestrial presence that is causing that interference?
Yes, definitely not of this earth because of the way it flew. I was an aircraft certification engineer for over 22 years. I worked for FAA and I was in Air Force. The way it flew and the way it was able to shut down the missiles in a very specific way by sending a very specific signal to each of the missiles. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't even imagine that something like that we would have today if it was ours in some way. Otherwise, we wouldn't worry about other people having nuclear weapons. We could just shut them down anytime we wanted to.
Have you ever feared reprisal for coming out sharing the story, almost gathering the troops, and thinking that either the Air Force or any other body would try to further suppress your story?
It's been on my mind. I've got to admit, there's always the possibility that there could be reprisals against me officially, but I have persevered. I've fought through that and continue to talk about it.